You need a lot of hype, you need a lot of buzz and everything around it.
In the age of AI, it's going to become increasingly more important to make sure that you can verify that that's a real team, that's a real person.
When you pioneer, you can make mistakes. And also retrospective mistakes.
The main thing in Web3, people want to see momentum. You don't want to seem like a zombie project. Okay, so welcome back to another segment. This one is a really nice one. We have Sebastiaan here, who supports us on a lot of our marketing initiatives. Well, I guess, why don't you start off by introducing yourself, Sebastiaan, and then when did you start helping out? Actually, I'm just trying to think.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me in the podcast. I think, we've been working on a couple of projects together for about 2.5 years now in the Web3 space. And I think for Defactor, we started working about 10 months ago, to really, work on the content and stuff. So, happy to be here.
Excellent. Well, I think this one was actually requested quite a bit from the community because, marketing is one of the number one topics in Web3, blockchain, whatever you want to see. And actually, a lot of projects, it's a marketing challenge they have. It's not really a technology challenge. So people wanted to see, some of the tactics, some of the tips, tricks, what you do or what one should do when they're looking to market either a new product, new platform, new ecosystem, whatever it may be. So with no further ado, I think let's get started. So look, you've said it. We've been involved in a number of projects and with different sizes. Some of them are going to be, bootstrapped early stage products. Some of them are going to be established. There's obviously a difference in how you're going to market and also the type of firepower or budget that you have available in order to do that. But starting out, if I was a blank canvas and I came to you to say, look, I'm starting a new tokenized project here and I need some marketing support, where do I start? Yeah,
where do you start? Good question. I think what's also good to mention is the space we're in, of course. Next-gen technology, we're way early in the adoption curve, right? We're still in innovation, early adoption stage. So it's very also hype buzzwords, etc. So it's very difficult to really know where to put your marketing budget because often it takes a while for example, like you said, like the tech to be adopted by bigger corporations, etc. Like 5 years from now, we're so in such a different space. And that's why it's such a marketing focused space at the moment, because you need a lot of hype, you need a lot of buzz and everything around it. So where do you start? I think, I would like to, maybe it's good to talk a little bit about it in for Defactor, like,
sure.
What are we doing now and what are we going to do? And, really see what can work, what doesn't, what's maybe, people perceive that, but that works, right? And they're like, no, not really. Like, for example, vanity metrics or something, having 100, 200,000 Twitter followers, does that really move the needle for a project? Maybe in the short term it does, but maybe in the long term it doesn't. So it's very interesting. But where I would start, I think, looking at this space, and at least what I've been seeing in the last 2.5 years. Let me give you an example. I will not name names, but we were researching a project this Friday because somebody said, this project, they raised millions and millions. They must be great. What they are doing, we want to do. And I was like, okay. And then we dove in, and then we found out it was a scam project. And actually, we went in the Telegram group, asked something about it, pretty normal, got banned. 5 minutes later, the community manager called, asked us for the seed phrases to our MetaMask address to correct everything, which was insane. And then we said, hey, why, where are your founders? We can't find them. And they said, the founders, they're working hard, but right now they're in the Caribbean and they will reveal themselves once the token goes live. And I think that's what it's a bridge to what I want to go for, because I think trust, legitimacy, credibility, I think that's where you start, right? Having this podcast, showing that you're there, that you're a founder, that you care, that you are building tech for a reason, that you're not out there here for a rug pull. No, Defactor is really building tech for years and years to come. Of course, there's a token which is interesting to go 10x or 100x or whatever, but we're really building something, and I think that's important to keep showing up, keep showing people, and then. from there you go into event marketing. You have to be there, talk to people, AMAs, LinkedIn Spaces, whatever you do. I think it's so important. And you were doing it. How has it been?
Well, I suppose there's a couple of things to unpack there. And I think the main thing is that there's so many different things that you can and maybe should be doing as a project. I guess to take it back a little bit, so that 9 months ago when you and the team started to come on from the Zyzen point of view and help us out from a lot of marketing support, while we had an overall plan, we had goals that we were trying to do, we didn't have the kind of minutiae or the detail of, well, what's our content strategy? What's our video strategy? How often should we be posting? What should we be posting? Are we putting out ebooks? Are we putting out research studies? All of this stuff we didn't have. And I think if you could do a side-by-side of the website maybe 9 months ago and the website today, that's a testament to all of this foundational work that was done, because we had to do gap analysis first to see, well, what are we missing? And how do you look at other projects to kind of see, okay, they have a knowledge base, or they have a resources page, or they have developer docs which they're sharing. And while all of it is, there's no magic bullet for marketing. It's like, do this and, number go up. It's not always like that. It's a lot of different things that you have to do in a systematic way. And I think that's really important for projects to try to, I guess, digest. To take it from a Defactor point of view, and I think it's important to use us as a use case for this. Once you start to do things like this, you mentioned having founders which are, well, they want to put themselves out there to show that, well, number one, that we're here, we're not going anywhere. Number two, that there's real people, real faces behind a project. I think in the age of AI and chatbots and all of these things, it's going to become increasingly more important to make sure that you can verify that that's a real team, that's a real person. So there are definitely, I guess you could say, checklist items, or if you're looking into a project to see if they are doing it the correct way. One thing I would like to see is that the founders are available, or the team is available. I know it's not always the case. Of course, look, Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto, right? He set the precedent for people to not dox themselves. And I can see it with some projects, but with others where you are very much either B2B or B2B2C, you have to have human beings there. Absolutely.
You can't not, and I think it will be even more and more important now that AI it's doing its thing. I really think next year you can't believe anything anymore online. That's why I really believe in event marketing at the moment, especially in the B2B tech space, because people will always do business with people. Mm-hmm. It will never change. So I think that focus is very important. But going back to with Defactor, like when we came in to help out, and there were specific needs, like, hey, we don't have continuity in our social media presence, for example. We need content, but every time it's ad hoc. But it's expensive to investing in content. It's really it's funny, sometimes you see people, here's an ebook that you get shared on LinkedIn, or here's a podcast episode. The amount of work that goes into something like we're doing right now, it's studios, preparation, brainstorming, and then after it, editing, making sure it goes into different types of, it's distributed in different types of ways. There's a lot that goes into it. And when you do that, there's a lot of things. You have to get people involved. You have to convince people that it's the right way to go, because creating an ebook, like, it's a heavy investment. And there's where I hope to always make a difference, because with that ebook you can do so much. Mm-hmm. Like an ebook you can, like, for example, we had an ebook with 5 chapters. Each chapter is a blog article. There are visuals in it. Can be infographics, Each 5 articles, 3 infographics, that's 8 social media posts. But you can get quotes from it, right? So if you create social media posts, so that allows you that making that big bucket of content like we're doing right now, it allows you to really fill up that pipeline for months and months and months, which is kind of awesome for content. So an example, a podcast like this, we can create an article, we can create an infographic, we can cut up this podcast in pieces and distribute it. It's just awesome. Apart from that, we're working remotely, we're sitting with the team, we see each other, people see there's so many things around it, and that's, I think, what makes marketing so great. It's not only for for people out there, but it's internal marketing. It's building the brand. It's building this identity, getting your face and your personality out there, and making sure that I also, when people start recognizing maybe you in this podcast and they see you at an event, there, and that's boom. That's where you make real connections, and then a real conversation starts. And in the end, these conversations need to go to an ultimate goal, right? For Defactor, one important one is user cases. We need projects to adopt the tech. How do we get there? Well, building that trust, credibility. It's not only showing yourself, of course, it's, smart contract audits, compliance certificates, PR, right? Featured on Forbes. Wow, and one day we'll have something like that. How cool is that? And then you feature that somewhere. It all amounts to this what we're building, like the project as a whole, the company as a whole, but also the brand identity around it and everything. It's I love it. To be honest.
I can tell, and I can tell. Yeah. I think with Defactor, there's almost two tracks, or there's a challenge that we have to have where you have on one side, as I mentioned, B2B or B2B2C, or however you want to say it. You want real companies, projects, businesses looking at our technology, looking at the stuff that we're putting out and saying this looks legit, right? This looks like something that I would like to use. That's one challenge. There's another challenge where we have a community of token holders, and we have people that they care about the Factor token, and maybe they won't actually use our technology. They may never even interact with some of our pools or ecosystems. So there is a challenge there. We have to try to satisfy both.
It's a challenge, yeah.
From the crypto world, lots of people who know crypto and Web3, you'll often hear this term, when marketing, right? WEN, when marketing, when moon. And again, it can be a challenge because there's either the spray and pray approach where you got to hire lots of different KOLs and you got to hire lots of different people, spend a lot of money to get your name and your token out there. And that's very valuable to do. And it's especially very valuable for projects that are trying to raise capital or trying to get themselves from 0 to 1. But then when you have technology that you're trying to push, or when you have a challenge of trying to get more users or more use cases, get your technology up there and recognized among, some of the best stacks out there. It can be hard to balance all things at once, right? Yeah. And it's hard to do everything at once. So, I guess that's all I have to say.
Well, no, it is one of the biggest challenges, also one of the beauties of the space we're in, because the decentralized world, because the token holders you're talking about is really a lot of the times private investors, right? So, and they also have a goal of the token going multiple times. Sure. But from the tech side, we're really building a long-term vision, and that sometimes works together, but also can clash a little bit. Yeah. And that's why it's so important to not only think short-term, which is going to be way more difficult when a bull run starts, for example. Because if you have a bull run, there's a lot of money, you think now. And then a lot of companies forget about the long. And then I think at that point, we really have to, we have to go long. So user cases, for example, are, I think, the most important thing in B2B tech, because people need to trust other people did it, how did they do it, and they can and they can do it themselves. But when you look at the token holders, they also want the user cases, but maybe they don't care as much about that, and that's difficult.
It can be hard to say kind of, what resonates with one rather than the other. I think you mentioned something which was very important, and that's trying to tie the two together, which is, for example, do you have smart contract audits? So is your token or is the infrastructure that you're putting out there, is that secure? Any staking, if people are going to lock up their tokens and use them, can they trust that that's going to work? So at a base level, you have to make sure that that's there, but then it becomes a marketing challenge to tell that story and to say, no, here, we've used this company and we've done this for this reason, and here's the audit report on that. And that does help to try to bring, again, legitimacy, trust, as it's going to be. And from a Defactor point of view, one of the key points to try to bring these two tracks together is that, for example, the more clients that we have on the B2B or the B2B2C side, the more tokens get used. And that's the thing that's important, I guess, to try to get that message across, which is more clients equals more tokens being bought back, more sell pressure on the overall Factor token. And I do want to just, square that circle where we're looking to say we need to get 100 plus people using our technology, because if we have that, we have X amount of buybacks that are going to happen every single time people use our technology. And that's maybe where you can start to satisfy or have things that will resonate with both of those target groups, right? But as I say, there's no silver bullet, and different communities, not to name any particular project, but we can try all of these really nice things, and then there'll be a meme coin that will come up and it will shoot to the moon, and people are saying it's just it's very hard to kind of say what works and what doesn't, right?
Yeah, there's a lot in there. There's a lot. We can talk for hours, I think, but this, with community being so close to you, like for example a Telegram group, it's so nice that you can basically filter out aspects of what people want to see from you, that what you need to do to make them happy, which is great, because it's a feedback loop basically you have every day. But we also have a business to run, right? And we also have to think long term, and we can't always think about 10xing a coin or a token. And because we need to think about how do we get a project to be interested in the tech, and then marketing's job is how do we get in a room with that person, like an actual meeting that happens. Then you start talking, you start doing your discovery, and hopefully they adopt the tech. And so sometimes it's also hard. You see that also with a lot of Web3 projects, that somebody says something in a Telegram group, and they're like, oh, right away we need to act on it. Mm-hmm. And that's where it becomes a little bit dangerous. Like, not dangerous, but it's also a good example. Like, we're working on centralized exchanges, getting listed there, right? It's great. Everybody wants to get on a top tier centralized exchange. People say, or also often they give it's legitimacy that you are listed on a centralized exchange. But to get listed on a centralized exchange at the moment as a normal token, it will cost you $300,000 to get on it. Minimum.
Sometimes minimum. Yeah, it depends on the exchange.
It's a lot of money. Yeah. So, and you're not always communicating that right away, so people might not know. So that a podcast like this is good to tell that. And then you're not even talking about liquidity that you need to bring into the system.
Correct.
So you're about $500,000, $600K in to get listed. And then when you look at a marketing budget as a business, like maybe there's 1 million, maybe there's 10 million, but 300 to 500K, that's a lot of money to spend. And then you're right, those questions, they always remain. Like, what are the things you're doing? Are they the right things? And I think right now, the choices are pretty simple. You bring that trustworthiness, and everything you do is focused on that. And that will bring you maybe speaking engagements and everything, and around, and AMAs and connections with your community, and the community is growing. So anything you do around that is great. Yeah.
Well, I guess question then would be, and I know you and I have debated this off camera and having a beer, etc., is that importance between in real life event marketing versus doing stuff virtual. And my gut feel, being a technology project and a technology ecosystem, is to try to do more on the virtual side, right? I think I said to you at the time, I want to do 80-20, more virtual than more physical. And I think you disagreed on that. So how can we come to terms on that? It's an interesting one, right?
I think you have to see it as a big circle. And within that circle, there's a lot happening. Yeah. So, for example, in B2B tech, on average, this is research by Gartner. It's like, on average, you have 14 touch points with a person before it really becomes real or you come to a deal, which is a lot, 14 touch points. And basically what we're creating in the circle is these different touch points. Mm-hmm. And every touch point has its different meaning and its different relevance and importance. So let's say I want to get you involved with a type of project. Maybe, you see a social post for the first time. You're like, oh, you see a social post, then nothing. Maybe you scroll past a quick podcast. You're not listening to the whole thing, but you see it. Oh, again. Then you're at an in real life event, and you're talking about RWA, and somebody mentioned, oh, have you heard about this Defactor project? I'm like, okay, now it starts building, right? Mm-hmm. And then let's say I meet you. Oh, wait, the founder of Defactor is here, and and then I've met you, and then the next day maybe the business development or the growth team is sending you a use case for your particular tokenization project, and then all things, they start blending together and are building this opinion in your head about working with Defactor. And I think that's where it comes together. And then it's finding that balance.
Yeah.
Where are we more effective than others?
Look, there's always going to be a push or no, let's just get onto a plane, let's go onto every event that we can and make sure. My point is always, what's the purpose? Who are we trying to meet? What are we trying to do? We're not just going to stand up on stage and talk for the sake of it, or not just going to be on a panel as a talking head unless we're doing it for a reason. That's just generally my gut feel, just trying to be fully open and transparent. But I get your point where it's almost a compounding effect. It's all of these different touch points, death by 1,000 cuts, as you say. And I think because we managed to do a lot of the foundational work that we do now have, the podcasts and the ebooks and the tokenized world community videos and blogs and social posts, etc., we've done a lot of that foundational work on the virtual. We should be getting out in front of people, and again the likes of Dubai with the Token 2049 week and some of these key events that will happen throughout the world. We have to be there and we have to have presence.
Yeah, and I think also when you do in real life events, you also have to connect it to the digital world again. So if we meet somebody at an RWA session around the world throughout the year, we're talking to them, we're getting their contact information, and we have to send them relevant content after to get them to the next stage in that sales funnel there. So it's really thinking about it in a 360 way and making sure that everything makes sense. And back to, in a bull market, for example, it's tough because, you have more budget. So not everything people do will make sense. So you have to be, I think, constantly aware, like, we're doing this brings ROI. And we also discussed it like, yeah, but we're spending a lot of time preparing. Yeah, okay, that's kind of the end. But
that's what
at
it
the
is.
end, I think we need to make sure everybody's happy, everybody knows it makes sense, the token holders think it makes sense. But there's so much you can do, like, not to go on too much about in real life events, but I was thinking about the Formula One and SUI sponsoring Crypto.com. You really see the big guns on these cars. And I'm looking in Max Verstappen, shout out, sitting there. Well, actually, he doesn't have one on his car. But if you look at a driver and you see SUI, what does that mean? It's really brand awareness, number one. But also what we don't see is probably an event happening, a side event by SUI, where they invite their major user cases, their major token holders, whatever it is. And they find these people that are crazy about them, the champions we call them in marketing, and you do something with them so they grow closer to you, so they start talking about you. And one other thing I wanted to mention, and what we talked about as well, is Net Promoter Score. And Net Promoter Score, not everybody's, so I'll explain it a little bit. Basically, you ask somebody, how likely are you to recommend Defactor to somebody else? And then you score that question, you answer it with 0 to 10. Well, 1 to 10, 0 to 10, doesn't really matter. If somebody says, how likely are you to recommend Defactor? And you say, for example, anything up until 6, you're a detractor. That means that when actually in a conversation, then when somebody says, what technology should I use for tokenization? Somebody else will say, don't use Defactor. Don't do that. That's not a good one. If you give a 7 and 8, that's neutral. Then they are not of use to you, because in a conversation, they won't mention you. They won't do anything. So they're like, yeah, you don't do anything. But the ones who give a 9 and 10, that's your promoters. So the Net Promoter Score is focused on getting people to promote you as much as you can. And you see it a lot. I think in software, when you open it, you see it, and it's really a useful tool. But I think it's also not even that the number, because we don't do surveys at the moment about that, because it's sometimes hard to get the right people in front of you to ask that question. But think about that. We are all basically trying to convince people to recommend us to others. Mm-hmm. And then we go back to people do business with people. People want referrals. It's in the end, it's a people business, because whenever you will you want to choose Defactor to use as a tech or to buy the token, you will find out and you will go to somebody that you trust and say, should I do this?
Have you heard of this project? What should they exactly? And I think that's what we're trying to do is when people ask that question, or when you do have some of these promoters, which of course we want more of these champions, ambassadors, people that are out there singing the good song about what we're trying to do. But when you have those, it's important to make sure that the right information is there for the new people that want to come on, and that they don't land on your website and say, where the heck is everything? What do I do? What does this project do?
Yeah.
Within seconds, they need to know, oh, this does this, and this resonates with me, or it doesn't. And I think it's, again, I'm learning all the time. It's why I'm so grateful to have you and other people supporting us on this. And yes, there'll always be back and forths, me saying, should we do it this way or can we change it that way? But I guess it is that compounding effect. You have to do multiple things, making sure that you're going in the right direction and showing momentum, right? And the main thing in Web3, people want to see momentum. You don't want to seem like a zombie project or a dead project or something that's, waiting in the wings. You want to be showing that you're there and that you're pushing on. So
you said dead project, and it triggered me to something which is also pretty wild in this space, right? It's such a young space, like for example, Defactor, 2-3 years there, and we were talking to a PR agency, and he said or somebody else, and they said, yeah, you're an old project. What? Old? 2 years old? Yeah, but you need the new hot stuff, because that's in this space. We all want something new, but we actually have tech, right? Yeah. There's something built, there's something people can do, which makes you further ahead. But in newsworthiness, it's very difficult. And then we talked to a PR agency, which was interesting. And they said, what's newsworthy? Yeah, your investment rounds. Yeah, but we're not doing investment rounds at the moment. So you can't really put out a press release saying, oh, we raised 10 million or whatever. So what do you do then? These challengers are actually super, super fun. And for Defactor, it will probably mean, big name partnerships, big name user cases, whatever it is. But it's very interesting how sometimes unforgiving next gen tech can be. The same thing, for example, regulation, it's coming, but it's not yet there. So we have to pioneer. When you pioneer, you can make mistakes. And also retrospective mistakes. Mm-hmm. You do something which you think is right, and then all of a sudden the regulation, no, you couldn't do that. But we didn't know, and we're not doing it on purpose. I know you and I, we work with projects, that are compliant and that are building this trust. So you don't want to do it, but sometimes it happens. Apple gets fines all the time. Do we hate Apple for it? No. We're still there's an Apple here. Yeah. So I think I hope that when projects and user cases also look at that learning curve, that sometimes projects try stuff which doesn't always work, or we will do some marketing effort and it will fail. It's just part of the job.
It is part of it, but I will say from myself personally, sometimes I'm a little bit hesitant or reluctant because this Web3 space is so full of people that are either trying to fake it till they make it, or just fake it, right? Or just try to kind of appear that they're bigger. So I just have a natural reluctance to talk about something before it's done, or to push out something that I know good, but
and
at the
that's
same
why people
time,
trust you. That's why people buy the token.
But at the same time, then you've got community members or other people saying, "Oh, move faster, get this out, do this," and you're trying to say, "Look, we will, but we got to make sure we're doing it in the right way." And maybe it's just because I've been around for a while and I've seen a couple of these cycles and I've seen so many of these promises, not to name any names, but how many projects would we have said, that's a rock solid project, and now they're gone. Yeah. And look, some of them, it's because of they were doing something wrong, others maybe not. But I guess that's always the challenge for me is, yes, you want to show that you're trailblazing, that you're doing this stuff all the time, and it's okay to make mistakes, but you don't want to be trying to hoodwink people and saying, look at all this great stuff we have before you have it, right? Yeah. And in reality, this is still a new space. A lot of this stuff is still in POC, and the big players are only waking up to it now. So that's why I do want to make sure that we're showing consistent momentum. But one thing that's really important to me is, and I hope for our community when they listen to this, is that they'll also give feedback, right? They'll say, no, guys, we like the ebooks. We maybe don't like you talking so much on the podcast, or whatever they're going to say. But I want to get that feedback because it helps us get better.
Yeah. By the way, the last 2 minutes, editor, if you see me, that we're that is a great clip, because I saw your eyes light up. You got more passionate about what you're saying. This is marketing gold, I call that.
Okay.
So then you can create a short and then you say, because it's very genuine, it's authentic.
Yeah.
It also it means that you're doing something for a reason, and you're really doing it to create something great. And that's, hopefully it makes you stand out. And there will be cats with hats going to the moon. And okay, let them go to the moon, but you're building something long term. And I know it's difficult. And I think we will, in the next year, 2 years, when things hopefully go crazy, we will keep having this conversation. But it's also good to be grounded about it. It's interesting. No,
it is.
Yeah.
It really is. And you can't and you shouldn't try to be all things to all people, or else you'll end up being, nothing to nobody. Look, this has been great. And again, this was a really well requested from our community as to talking about marketing tactics, what we've been doing, what we've been trying. So I would say let's do this again. This has been great. Great to have you, Sebastiaan. And I hope everybody has enjoyed that segment.
This podcast is for information purposes only and should not be considered as financial advice. Please do your own research.